Hey, thanks for watching this. Just wanted to do a quick overview for what the first week of camp for Springer Flag in 2024 is going to look like. Just a quick reminder, so we get camp this Sunday, March 17th. It's at MEF Fieldhouse. We're going to have 6U and 10U going from 1 to 2:30. We're going to have 8U and 12U going from 3 to 4:30. Get there a little bit early so that way we can check in when you get there. You're going to walk in, number one, like no outside shoes, tennis shoes, all that stuff, everything that I threw out there in the email. No parents, chilling back there. It's going to be tons of kids. We don't have room. Kids are going to go back there. There's going to be a table right by the turf next to the weight room. Go in there. They're going to get a name tag, and then we're going to direct them to the groups. So now what I want to do is just go over what the overall drills, the schedule, everything like that is going to look like, along with the key things that we're going to be hitting on from a coaching and a technique standpoint to get as consistent as possible. So we'll get things started with the 6U group. So 6U, we're going to have 4 stations. All these groups, we're going to start by warming up. We're going to close with a wrap up and everything. But 6U is going to have 4 stations. And the drills we're going to be focusing on these 4 stations: number 1, partner snapping; number 2, toll booth; number 3, stationary handoffs; and number 4, the snake drill. So we got Ryan Norman and Matt Parker, who are going to be at partner snapping. We got John and Matthew, they're going to be at the toll booth. We got Phil and Darren, they're going to be at stationary handoffs. And then myself will be at the snake drill. I guess real quick before I dive into the drills, what we want to focus on with all this is we want to progress slowly so we understand and we get the basics drilled into these kids to set them up for a fun, productive regular season. So if kids have done flag before, these should be drills that they've done, and it's a way to work on the fundamentals. There's never enough time that you can spend, going through those fundamentals. We're not going to be doing any crazy stuff week 1. So if this seems boring, seem basic, that is entirely intentional, because we got to start with a solid foundation and then build from there. So what the day is going to look like is we'll do warm-ups, 6U. All players will do it as a group. That'll be about 15 minutes. And then we're going to go to our first station. And there's 4 different stations. So the Colts and the Lions, on their name tags, Colts are going to have black, Lions are going to have blue. They're going to start at station 1, which is going to be partner snapping. The Chargers and the Cowboys, Chargers have red, Cowboys have yellow. They're going to start at station 2, the toll booth. Eagles and Raiders, Eagles have orange, Raiders have pink. They're going to start at station 3, the stationary handoffs. And then the Rams and Titans, Rams in green, Titans in purple. They're going to start at station 4, the snake drill. So essentially what's going to happen is station 1, after 15 minutes, then they move on to station 2. And everyone rotates all the way through. So all 4 groups are going to hit all 4 stations. And then, we'll spend 15 or so minutes at each station. We'll wrap up. We'll be good to go. Should be a great, fun day. All right. So I want to go through each of these stations in order with what the drill is going to look like, and then what we're specifically, what we want to be coaching towards. Whether you're running a drill, you're a coach that's going to be, not able to do the drills and everything, but you're looking for some ideas for, future practices, or you're just a parent, you want to work on this stuff at home, you want to know what your kids are doing, you want to ask them about it and be able to ask some questions, kind of like when my kids come home from school, I'm like, hey, how's your day? And they're like, oh, good. And I'm like, what'd you learn? They're like, oh, nothing. Well, if I check and I see, because the teacher does a great job like sharing what they're actually working on, I can actually ask specific questions when I know what's going on. So I get more than nothing, or just like, oh yeah, it was okay. So, use it however you see fit. Station 1, partner snapping. So really what we're going to do with this station, we'll start off and, do demonstrations and really kind of make sure that the kids understand, what a snap should look like. But as far as the drill is concerned, we're going to separate and we're going to pair off everyone in the group. You get a pair spread out along the line. It's going to be a narrow area, probably like 10, 15 yards wide or so. And each pair is going to have balls. Essentially what we're going to do, we pair them off. One side is going to be the center. One side is going to be the quarterback. And we want to make sure when we pair them off, hey, like arm's length apart and everything. So they're going to mess with each other. They're kids. They're 6U. Both my kids are in 6U. I get it. But give them a little bit of room to reduce that. We're going to start with the center getting in a proper stance and grabbing the ball. And then we're going to have the quarterback come in behind, get a proper stance with their hand ready for the ball. Biggest thing here is 6U. They're like, oh, I don't want to put my top hand on the center's butt. It's part of football. It is what it is when you're snapping under center. Coach is going to check the stances, and the coach is going to control the cadence in all drills in week 1. And we're all going to be using the same cadence as the high school program. It's goal, set, hit. The ball is snapped on hit. The coach is going to call up the cadence for all groups, so they could all be kind of doing it together. Later in camp, the QB is going to start controlling the cadence, but we just want consistency and simplicity week 1. On hit, center snaps the ball. We're going to repeat this for 5 reps. There's going to be feedback, coaching tips, things like that along the way. They're going to switch. So whoever was quarterback becomes center, who is center becomes quarterback. They're just flipping like partners. All right, so what are we going to be focusing on in this drill? So this is all about snapping, quite frankly. Like, it starts every play. It may seem boring. You have bad snaps. It just really makes it hard to run an offense. And it ends up being a frustrating experience. And in 6U, everyone's be played every position. So everyone needs to know how to snap. Everyone needs to know how to receive a snap, everything. So 6U is going to be snapping under center, which is between the legs. There's no snapping to the sides. I doubt there's going to be shotgun snapping. Listen, if we got 6U kids that can pull off, pistol snaps and, things like that, cool, do it. But the main thing is we want the ball going between the legs, like it's football. We don't want like hand the ball to the side or anything like that. What we'll be focusing on, the key things here. So center, feet, like you cannot, the feet kind of drive everything. So feet shoulder width, a little bit slightly wider than shoulder width apart. The knees got to be bent. They got to get their butt down. And ultimately they need to have kind of like the ball in front. If we're looking for where the ball should be, like when they put their hand down, it should be like right underneath their nose. Center is going to grab the ball with one hand. When we're doing under center, and especially with the size of the balls for 6U and 8U, there's zero reason the kids can't grab with one hand. Grab with one hand, your fingers are going to be spread out where you want to kind of have that index finger extended. Quarterback is going to squat down. They need to get down low, because if they're high, the center is going to be high or the snap's going to be bad. So we want the quarterback to squat down, want the hands spread, kind of teach it like an alligator. The top of the hand's going to be right at resting on the center's butt, and they don't want to have a closed hand. They want to have an open hand. Quarterback calls the cadence eventually. Week 1, it's going to be the coach. Center snaps the ball, starting like this, and you want to turn it. So it goes right into the hand, just like this. The football goes into the hand. So cues that we'll be coaching on for the center, number 1 is feet. Like, that is the most important. Like, have your feet the right way, slightly wider than shoulder width. Get the butt down, get bent. Grab the ball, snap and turn. Like, those are the key cues when we're looking at snapping for centers. Cues for the quarterback, squat down. You cannot, you need to get down in a good athletic position. Alligator hands, like that tends to resonate where like you leave them wide open, and then once the ball's in your hand, then you grab it, because you can't snap into closed hands. Once they start calling the cadence, they got to be loud. They got to wait for the ball before they pull back. So that's first station for 6U. Second station for 6U is going to be the toll booth drill. And this is, quite frankly, this focuses on running, but the primary focus on this is going to be on defense and flag pulling. We cannot have defense or flag pulling enough in 6U and 8U. 10U and 12U, we'll adjust as we go. We're going to start off a little bit lighter on flag pulling, but depending on how they do, we may introduce more flag pulling as they go on. So like we're going to set it up where there's going to be like 3 triangles, or because there's going to be break up in each group into kind of 3 subgroups. So each triangle, you're going to have 2 cones that are about 3 yards apart. And for the first part of this drill, we're going to have 1 cone right in the middle, about 1 yard apart. And you're going to have a defender that goes on the line, and their job is to pull flags. They want to make sure they pull the flag before the person who's running on offense can get past them. Offense, they want to get past that line in between the cones. This is going to be something that we probably repeat 50 times on Saturday. Kids' natural tendency is to try to run all the way around. Like, I get it. In between the cones. We're starting off closer. So essentially, we're going to form a line. You have the first person in line go out in between the cones. They're the defender. The next person in line is going to be the first runner. That runner is going to go, and the next one up, and the next one up, and the next one up. And that defender is going to keep on going, trying to pull flags. When you pull a flag, you drop it, and pick up the flags at the end of everyone's turn. The first round, we want that close because we want to focus on the defender being in a good athletic position, making sure they shuffle, because there's not going to be tons of movement here. You're this close to it, you're 3 feet away from each other. Like, it's not like there's going to be crazy movement. Yeah, the runner's still going to move side to side, try to get by, but we want the defender to really start understanding the idea that you need to shuffle. No crossing the feet, no turning, nothing. And stay big and pull those flags. Once everyone goes through, then the defender is going to go to the end. The first person up becomes a defender. Once everyone has a chance to be a defender, then we're going to bring that cone back to about 4 yards deep. And it's the same thing, but now the runner can they can start, doing some moves. They can run fast and try to get through. It's a lot faster. It's a lot harder to pull a flag when someone's running fast than when someone's running slow, or someone stops right before the defender. So run. They could do a jump cut. They could do a spin move. They can't run the defender over. So yeah, we'll be kind of going through that, but we're starting slow, real focused on the basics, keeping that good form, pulling flags, getting used to pulling the flags, because this is something that is really, really important for 6U to learn. So that's going to be the drill. Realistically, when we're looking at this and we're coaching to it, like flag pulling, like they need to break down. This is one of the things that, like, it's kind of funny. Like, it's like, oh, flag football, tackle football. Oh, flag football is not real football. Like, yes, there are big differences between tackle and flag, but a lot of these fundamentals, even though we're not tackling kids, we're not blocking kids, things like that, like a lot of these fundamentals can carry over very, very well. For example, breaking down. When you're on defense, you need to break down, because if you don't break down, you are not going to be able to adjust for anyone making a move. So we're going to be focusing on that. We're going to be focusing on shuffling when you're in a smaller area rather than turning or crossing your feet or anything like that, so you can stay in a good athletic position. Defender, we're going to be focusing on keeping their eyes up and focusing right on like the belly button or the hips, because you could sit there, you watch the head, it's easier to fall for fakes. You're focusing right on that belly button. And then when we're pulling flags, we want to focus on when you go to pull the flag, like a flag attaches like right at the hip and it kind of dangles. Well, if someone moves, the end of the flag can move right along with it. That top of the flag isn't moving nearly as much because it's attached to the hips. So we want them trying to pulling right at the top. And it's a heck of a lot easier to actually pull the flag and get it out when you pull it right near the handle. Perfect scenario, you break down, you're squared up, try to pull 2. Or let's say, eventually once we start passing, as soon as they catch the ball, if you're right there, you can't get the ball, try to pull 2, because you got a better chance than just pulling 1. Or if you're focusing on what you can only get to one side, pull it with both hands if you can. We'll also be talking about, what not to do. Don't grab anything except for the flags. Like, don't grab the belt, don't grab the jersey, don't pull their shorts down. Like, it happens. Don't dive. You leave your feet. I mean, you're useless if they make a move. And no knocking the kid down. This is not tackle. This is flag. Same thing when kids run the ball. You can cut. You can jump cut. You can spin. You can't run outside the cones, and you can't run the kid over. Do not run the defender over. So cues for defense, breakdown. That's probably gonna be the biggest thing that we'll be saying. Shuffle, keep the eyes on the hips, and pull with both hands if you can. All right, station 3 is gonna be stationary handoffs. This is gonna be like, realistically, like, this is just introductory level of how do you give a handoff and how do you receive a handoff. And this is the fundamental aspects of both. We're not snapping into it. We're not turning. The quarterback is going to be stationary. We're going to take out as many variables as possible so we could break this down one by one. We could learn bit by bit and then eventually build it the right way, because how you take a handoff and how you give a handoff, even when stationary, carries over very, very well to the future. And there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. So We're going to set up this drill. Again, we're going to break each group into kind of 3 subgroups, and we're going to set up a triangle and then like a tip on the triangle. Each group's going to get balls. So we're going to have 3 lines. First player comes up, they're going to be on that middle cone, kind of the tip of the triangle. They're going to be the quarterback. And then the next person in line is going to go to that first cone. They are the running back. And what we're going to do is we need to make sure coaches, running back needs to be in an athletic stance. Like it's all, I think the first few weeks, it's as much fundamentals as we could preach is going to be very, very important. So running back's going to start a good athletic stance. Quarterback's going to hold the ball with 2 hands to the right. It's going to be placed there because we're going to help the quarterback start to understand where good placement is versus bad placement. Like you don't want it down by their feet. You don't want it up by their head. You want it right in the top of their belly, the kind of the bottom of their chest, right in the sternum. When the coach yells hit, running back's going to approach the ball and going to accept the handoff with their inside elbow up, making a nice breadbasket that they could fold over. They're not grabbing the ball or anything like that. The quarterback's not throwing it to them. Quarterback's not slamming into them. It's just taking it with the nice breadbasket, folding over. After they go, the next person in line, running back. So basically, the first player in line that, whoever, just they were the first running back, they become the quarterback. Quarterback moves to the back of the line. So it's just kind of like a rotation. We're going to go through where everyone has a chance to be a quarterback handing off twice to the right. And then we're going to switch to do twice to the left, just getting these basics down. So handoffs, what are we going to be focusing on? Like 6U is focusing on the handoffs between quarterback and running back at first. Eventually, yes, we will get into like jet sweeps, go into a wide receiver. We can get into reverses where the running back hands to a wide receiver, stuff like that. But like this is foundational. We're really going to focus on the idea with like running backs. They need to make that breadbasket with the inside elbow up. So if you're going to the right, your left elbow should be up. If you're going to the left, your right elbow should be up. And just these little things. Running back's going to fold over to secure the ball. Their eyes should always be up. If their eyes are watching the handoff the entire time, the defense is moving around, they are not going to be able to react. And they're going to be much less successful. And then if their eyes are able to watch the defense as they're taking the handoff. So that's why a bunch of reps doing this in a simple way is going to be very, very important. We always want the quarterback to give it in there, not the running back taking it. So cues for the running back, breadbasket, inside elbow up, eyes up, fold over. Like these are probably the things that we'll be saying on a regular basis. Cues for the quarterback, 2 hands on the ball, put it in the belly. Like that's it. We're not going to get super technical. The quarterback is just standing there. They're not working on steps. We're not working on receiving the snap. It's just standing there. All right, 4th station is going to be the snake drill. This is another flag pulling drill. It's also when you're running, it's also a way to develop your running technique. So it's kind of a twofer. And plus, it's a heck of a lot of fun. Kids like doing stuff like this. They like pulling flags. So we want to make sure the 6U kids, especially, and even 8U, they have as much fun as possible because like they need to enjoy this. Otherwise, they're not going to want to do it. And we can have the best play in the world, but if the kids don't want to do it because they're not having fun, it doesn't matter. So with this one, we're going to break each group up into 2 subgroups. And we're going to set up 2 rectangles that are 4 by 6. We're going to hand out flags to each of the players. That brings up a good side note. Players are only going to get flags when they're at a station where they need flags. When they're at stations where they don't need flags, they will not have flags on because 6U and 8U especially, if they're waiting in line 10 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever for a drill, and they have flags on, they're going to be pulling them left and right. They're going to be distracted, and it's never a good idea. So they will only have flags when they need flags. And recommendation for all coaches out there, even in practices, like don't put flags on the kids unless they need flags for the drill. It just creates a distraction. So the instructions on this one, we're going to have 2 lines starting on diagonal cones. One's going to be offense, one's going to be defense. Okay, when the coach yells hit, the offensive guy is going to run and he's going to go around this cone, and his job is to stay inside these cones and cross this line where he just started without having his flag pull. He can spin, he can sprint, he can jump cut, he can do whatever. He cannot run over the defender, he can't leave the box. The defensive guy on hit, he's going to run around this cone and he's going to turn. And his job is to pull this guy's flag before he crosses the line. I mean, same thing. We're going to be focusing on what we talked about earlier with breaking down, with having good technique. Not grabbing things other than the flag, not running the kid over. Once you go on offense, then you switch to the defense line. Once you go on defense, you switch to the offensive line, go through a couple times, and then we'll switch lines so they get to turn different directions and work on that experience. So again, these cues are going to be the same as what we just went through with the toll booth. Really kind of going through breaking down, shuffle, make sure you're not just turning and running so you get juked out. Keep the eyes on the hips or the belly and make sure you pull with both hands if you can. All right, so next up, 8U. 8U is going to have 4 stations, same 4 stations as 6U. We're going to have partner snapping with Jeremy and Brian. We're going to have toll booth with Thomas and Brian. We're going to have stationary handoffs with Kyle and Kurt. And we're going to have snake drill with Michael and Kirk. Okay? Their agenda is looking identical to the 6U. They're actually going at a different time. They're going to be going from 3 to 4:30. 6U goes from 1 to 2:30. Starting at station 1, we got the 49ers in red, the Saints in green. They're doing partner snapping first. Station 2 is going to be the Bucks and the Steelers. The Bucks in black, the Steelers in purple. They're doing toll booth. Station 3 is going to be the Cardinals in yellow, Falcons in orange, starting with stationary handoffs. Station 4 is going to be the Jets in blue, the Packers in pink, and they're starting with the snake drill. All these drills are exactly the same. All the technique is exactly the same. When we're starting early on, quite frankly, we are going to treat 6U and 8U very similar to make sure they both have the fundamentals. 8U might start progressing faster in camp than 6U does. We hope that's the case, but unless these kids have the fundamentals with being able to pull flags, being able to break down, being able to be in athletic stance, be able to receive a handoff, being able to give a handoff, being able to snap the ball, like none of that other stuff matters. Like we want to start getting into teaching them about different passing routes, different formations, things like that. And they will advance faster, but only if they can grasp the fundamentals. They may move faster. They may move at the same pace as 6U. We're going to take feedback from whoever's running the stations along the way to make sure that, we get them going the right direction. So first up, they're doing partner snapping, same thing as 6U. Pairing off, snapping the ball 5 times, flipping, snapping the ball. 8U is also going to be snapping under center. Don't get me wrong, if you're a coach, you want to teach pistol formation to 8U and you got the talent to be able to do it, by all means, go for it. But in camp, we're teaching under center for 8U. Same cues as before. Second drill, toll booth drill, same thing as 6U. We're starting close and then we're going further away so that way we can really crawl before we walk and then walk before we run, get the good fundamentals in place. We're doing stationary handoffs, same thing. 8U, we have more kids that have played before than we do in 6U, so we may be able to move faster through some of these drills, but we don't know until we go through it, and we don't want to leave people behind, and we don't want to assume kids know stuff when they don't know it. We'd rather, have a little bit of repetition here. And then, last but not least, we got the snake drill for them. Same thing, run around, trying to get through, pull the flags. Okay, 10U is where we start seeing some pretty big differences, since 6U is going to be treated very, very similarly in camp in week 1. 10U, just a reminder, 10U is going from 1 to 2:30. So 10U, we are going to have 4 stations. We're going to have partner snapping with Chris and Mark. We're going to have route running with Nathan. We're going to have a step back drill with James and Jill, and we're going to have a snake drill with Nate. How it's going to look is we're going to do warm-ups, then we're going to break off, spend about 15 minutes each station. We're going to rotate all the way through, and then we're going to wrap up. So starting at station 1 is going to be the Bengals in red and the Broncos in black. They're doing partner snapping first. Station 2, Browns in yellow, Chiefs in orange. They're going to do route running first. Station 3 is going to be the Dolphins in blue and Jaguars in pink. They're going to be the step back drill first. And then station 4, Panthers in green, Ravens in purple, doing the snake drill first. Partner snapping. Similar to what we talked about with 6U and 8U, except for 10U and 12U is snapping on the pistol. They're not snapping under center. So this is something that was very, very important for the long-term success of our program. You look at, the high school snapping and shotgun, 7th and 8th grade, debating between shotgun and pistol, depending on what they got going on. You know, 5th and 6th grade is going to be in the pistol. 3rd and 4th grade, very, very likely they're going to be in the pistol. So the sooner we can just get this established that once you reach a certain age, you're snapping on the pistol or the shotgun, the better. Especially at this age in flag, this is important because we have rushing. And once you start getting 10 and 12U kids, they're faster. So even though they're starting from 7 yards off, they're going to get there quick. So if you have to waste time going under center and then dropping back, that means you're just going to have less time to throw the ball. And it's really going to impact your passing game. So we're going pistol. Conceptually, the drill is similar to what we talked about earlier, where we're going to pair them off, spread them across the line. Difference here is the center is going to be on the line. The quarterback is going to be 3 yards off. Pistol means 3 yards off. They're going to go through. The center is going to snap. They're going to go through 5 reps, switch, 5 reps, go back and forth. So snapping, this is something where, you know, if you've never snapped, you know, in a pistol or a shotgun formation, this will be new for kids. So we may end up having to do this on every single camp. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because everyone in 10U can play center, and most likely probably should, because the center can go out and run routes. So we want to make sure the kids can snap. So then we're doing the pistol, 3 yards, and center's going to be snapping with 2 hands. Now, admittedly, when I learned how to snap in the shotgun, which, I mean, this is probably one of the few drills, being a former offensive lineman, actually helps me. I used 1 hand. We are teaching 2-hand at the youth level. And there's a good YouTube link down here. Fair State put out a video on it. And it's something that's been used at the tackle level for, I think, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. It's an awesome video. So if you want to check it out, you're coaching, 110%. You should check out this video. It's an awesome video. It walks through the philosophy, the technique of the 2-handed snap. So what we're going to be focused on technique-wise: center, feet wider than the shoulders, slightly wider than the shoulders, bend the knees, get your butt down, ball's going to be in front. Center's going to grab the ball with 2 hands with their fingertips, really grabbing like the meat of the ball or the middle of the ball. And we're going to have it so the laces are to the right. Essentially, you kind of want that front third on the ground, making it like a 45-degree angle. Quarterback's going to take an athletic stance 3 yards back with their hands ready, right at the numbers, because that's where the center is going to be aiming for right at the numbers. Quarterback calls the cadence. Coach is going to be week 1. Center snaps the ball in 1 motion, and the QB receives it, and it's going to be going over end to end. So cues for the center: feet, butt down, grab it with your fingertips with both hands, laces to the right. And when you go through, kind of put your forearms to your thighs. Cues for the quarterback: athletic stance, be loud when they're calling it, and wait for the ball before you're moving. Again, that YouTube link is a super helpful video. All right, station 2, route running. We're not throwing, we're learning how to run routes the right way. So we're going to have, this group is going to be broken down into 3 subgroups. One subgroup is going to be running a go route. One subgroup is going to be running a hitch route. The 3rd subgroup is going to be running a slant route. So we're going to set up cones for really both the start of the route as well as where that route is ending, and ideally where they should be looking for that ball. So we're going to split them up. We're getting them in each line, and we're going to make sure we focus on having a good wide receiver stance. So I'd say coaches spend a little bit of time on this in the first few rounds and then reinforce it later on, because starting with a good stance without wasted, kind of false steps is really important, getting off the ball. When the coach yells hit, each player is going to run their route, focusing on that technique that we're going to talk about here in a minute. And then they'll rotate on through, so they get exposure going through each of these 3 routes. These are the 3 routes that we're going to be starting with. We will slowly add routes as we can, but we don't want to start adding routes until the players show that they can have a good stance and they can, do a decent or good job running more basic routes. So with route running, we're really going to be focusing on that staggered stance for wide receiver, with most of the weight on the front foot. Back foot's going to be back slightly at the snap, getting them to explode off the ball without any wasted steps. As they're going through and they're making a cut, you don't have a cut. But as they make cuts, that they really make clean, hard cuts to create separation. And we have the cones out here. So that way they can run consistent routes and we could have timing. We'd have some predictability looking for the ball, at that second cone. You may notice, for those of you that are more kind of experienced with football, how the cones will be set up for a slant route. We are setting it up so it's flatter. Based on feedback and experience, kids tend to want to take a slant route, deeper, almost kind of like make it look kind of like a post route, so if we make it flatter in the cones, when we're training it, naturally, when they're in real life, they may make it a little bit deeper, but it's still going to be an appropriate slant route. So we'll be focusing on making that route a little bit flatter during training. All right, station 3 is going to be the step back drill. This is really where we're focusing on throwing and catching here. So we're going to pair them off. They start off 5 yards apart, and they're going to throw the ball back and forth using the good technique that we'll talk about. And if both partners have caught a few in a row, each of them take a step back. If you're struggling, don't take a step back. If you're not catching a few in a row, stay where you're at. Like I know kids are going to treat this as like a game where like they want to go as far back as possible. They never want to throw, short. But again, it's the idea that we want to focus on, let's get the little things right before we try to do big things. So that's the intent behind a step back drill for throwing and catching. So when we're looking at throwing and catching, some of the things the coach should be focused on: quarterback holding the ball in the laces. I know that sounds obvious, but we do see kids that try to throw that ball in the laces. Want the fingers spread with the index finger extended. Really focus on like a good base with the feet slightly wider than shoulders, like that 90-degree wind up, and really focusing on releasing the ball where that ball is going to be, horizontal to the ground, aiming for the receiver's chest. Receiver, drilling, catching with their hands and looking the ball in. This is something that I think, especially with kids, that they could really work on. If the ball's above, focus on the diamond. If it's below, they should focus on a cup with their pinkies touching. And doing that motion over and over and over again will be very, very helpful. And then really drilling in that, hey, you should be watching that ball as a receiver all the way in. Like, you look at it, you need to get it all the way in before you start trying to make moves. Otherwise, you're going to drop the ball. So the cues for quarterback: laces, good stance, aim for the chest. Cues for the wide receiver: hands, watch the ball, diamond above, cup below. And then last station, we have the snake drill with slight deviation from what we just talked about. Here, we're going to be doing a handoff from the quarterback to the running back into the snake drill. So what we're going to start is same thing. We're breaking up into a couple different subgroups: defense over here, offense over here. But you'll notice right here, we're going to have the quarterback start on the cone. That running back is going to be starting arm's length away with their toes basically right like at the same depth as the heels of the quarterback, which is really the patterns that we want to get established and the habits we want to form. When the coach yells hit, the quarterback's going to hand the ball off to the running back, and then the running back goes. So this is an opportunity for not only for us to work on flag pulling, work on running, but also work on handoffs in the same drill. Now, if we get through and we see this drill and we're like, hey, they're struggling with handoffs or whatever it may be, week 2 and beyond, we may need to break this down where we can't combine, two skills into the same drill. But this is something where we think this could work for a decent chunk of people. So we want to try to do this in the first week. Same as the snake drill before. Once you're running back, you move, or once you're quarterback, you move to running back. Once you're running back, you move to the back of the defense line. Once you're defense, you move to the back of the offense line. And then you can switch different sides if we have time to go through. So handoffs, 10 use focus on handoffs in the pistol. Again, running back toes should be at the quarterback's heels, arm length away. The running back still is going to make that breadbasket, still going to keep the eyes up, inside elbow up. Quarterback's still going to hand it with 2 hands, putting it right in the running back's belly. So a lot of the fundamentals that we're talking about with 6U and 8U, same exact concept, even though we're going, from the pistol instead of from under center. But on a flag side of things, really we're focused on the same thing as with the younger groups: breaking down, shuffling, keeping their eyes on the hips, and pulling with both hands if they can. All right, last age group, we got 12U, which 12U is going to be going from 3 to 430. 12U, we have 3 stations. We got partner snapping with Nathan, we got pass routes with Chris and Josh, and we got snake with David. Okay, how it's going to break out is warm-ups, 15 minutes. Station 1 with Bears in red, Bills in black, partner snapping for about 20 or so minutes. Station 2 with the Giants in yellow and the Patriots in orange, focusing on pass routes for 20 or so minutes. And then Station 3 with the Seahawks in blue and the Texans in pink, focusing on snake drill for 20 or so minutes, and then we'll wrap it up. Partner snapping, same as 10U, what we just talked about. We're going to be doing it from the pistol. So it's the same drill, same things that we want to be focusing on. Again, if you're coaching 10U or 12U, I strongly encourage you watch that video from Ferris State, because it is, I mean, like, listen, I played offensive line my whole life. I ended up playing, college ball at Valpo, offensive line. And like, I watched that video and I'm like, holy crap, like this guy explained this perfectly and I learned a lot. So I feel like this is a video where everyone can really benefit from watching it if you're going to be coaching this. Station 2 is going to be pass routes, similar to the route running that we talked about for 10U, except for in 12U, we're going to be running the route and throwing the ball. So it's going to involve a quarterback and a wide receiver. What we're going to do is we're only going to focus on one route at a time. We're going to have hitch, and then we're going to have slant, and then we're going to have go. So we're going to break this group down into 2 subgroups, identify 2 quarterbacks. There should be 2 quarterbacks in each group. If you have more, then allow some rotation. Quarterback is always going to be throwing. We want the quarterback working on throwing. I mentioned, in the last video I made about the season overview, 10U and 12U, we can start specializing. Like, if you have someone that is going to be a quarterback, they need to work on being a quarterback. Like, it doesn't benefit them very much if instead of working on a quarterback, when that's a position they're going to play, them working on being a running back or a wide receiver or center, like have them working on being a quarterback. Everyone else, we're going to focus on wide receiver, because we're going to rotate other players, running back, wide receiver, center. Everyone's running routes, okay? So first in line, it's going to start in that first cone. For a hitch, when we say hit, they're going to go, they're going to turn, they're going to be looking for the ball. We're going to focus on the quarterback getting that ball right there at the right time. Slant, they're going to run to that first cone. That's going to be about 3 yards out, make a good, clean, hard cut, and they're going to go, they'll be looking for the ball right where that second orange cone is. Go, they're going to get off the ball, and they're start looking for that ball right around where that orange cone is. So we're using those secondary cones. Well, I mean, a hitch only has 1 cone. But so we're using those cones to indicate not only where we want to make cuts, but also where we want to be looking for the ball and where the quarterback should be looking to deliver the ball. So we can kind of drill that as much as possible. So go through route running, same thing we talked about, good stance, making sure we're getting off the ball, clean, hard cuts, consistent routes that are being run, and looking for the ball. Throwing and catching, same thing we talked about with the step back drill with 10U. We want to make sure that, we're practicing good habits and getting good, foundation in place. When we're catching the ball, we're looking it in, we're using our hands, things like that. And then last, our third station is going to be the snake drill. This is identical to the snake drills being run for 10U. We have the quarterback doing the handoff. So again, we want to get used to doing a handoff from a pistol formation. Defender run around, running back run around, trying to get past, trying to pull flags. So same things that we've talked about before. Perfect. Well, that wraps us up for what we're going to be focusing on. Week 1, we're excited to get started, and we will look to kind of, if we get feedback from each station, not only can this be used to adjust teams if we need to, but it could also be used to adjust our plan moving forward. Are kids getting certain concepts? Cool. Let's advance in that area and keep progressing. Are they struggling with certain concepts? Okay, let's keep it, right along the level where we're at. Maybe we tweak the drills to keep it new for them, but we that same, different drill that focuses on the same thing. But appreciate all the volunteers that are making this possible coming out on Sunday. Appreciate the parents and the kids for getting up, and the kids for doing it, parents for giving them rides and everything. And look forward to a good week. All right, thanks.